Hello friends, welcome to the new part of my Dearest Nemesis. If you haven't watched the previous episodes, you can find all the links in the description. So without further delay, let's begin. To hide his true nature, Juyeon lied, saying that it was his nephew's room and asked her to leave immediately. However, Sujing explained that she came to do the job in her father's place and insisted on finishing the work, fixing the faulty circuit, restoring the lights and the music. Unable to resist the sound of rock, Juyeon ended up following the rhythm of the melody, increasing Sujing's suspicion that this place was, in fact, his secret room. To confirm her suspicion, she picked up a limited edition manga from the shelf, leaving Juyeon desperate. After taking it from her hands, he inadvertently revealed that he knew the year of release, the edition number, and absolutely everything about that and the other collectibles in his room, especially as Sujing kept provoking him more and more. Realizing he had exposed his secret, Juyeon feared that Sujing would use this information against him, but instead, she said that his life seemed fun and that she now understood him better. Suddenly, she stumbled, but before she could fall, Juyeon dropped his precious mangas and caught her by the waist. With their bodies close, they stared at each other again, their hearts pounding. As Sujing was getting ready to leave, Juyeon told her that he had sent the money to her father's account. Sujing asked if he couldn't just deduct this service from the amount she had repaid him for the dress. Juyeon said she didn't need to pay anything else and asked why she would sell a gift. Sujing was surprised because she didn't know it had been a gift. If she had known, she wouldn't have sold it. Before she could apologize, she received a call from the hospital informing her that her father had fallen and suffered a fracture. Worried that she was too shaken to drive safely, Juyeon offered to take her to the hospital. Additionally, he arranged a VIP room for her father, using the excuse that it was a company benefit for employees' families, telling her father that Sujing was a very important employee for Yongsheng, leaving Sujing touched and surprised by Juyeon's unexpected kindness. After they said goodbye, Sujing was left alone in the hospital corridor, recalling her mother's death in that same environment and feeling an instinctive fear of hospitals. Although her father's injury wasn't serious, she couldn't help but feel relieved knowing that her father was being well taken care of as a VIP, unlike her mother, who had died in the waiting room. Juyeon, who had returned with a gift, hesitated to approach her when he saw her crying. After receiving a thank you message from Sujing, he informed her about the gift he had left at the reception, a teddy bear that he noticed she wanted while they were at the fast food restaurant. Later, her brother took over their father's care, and she went to Juyeon's house to retrieve the toolbox she had left there. As Sujing was about to leave, her car wouldn't start. Juyeon insisted that she get out of the vehicle and have it taken in for repairs immediately. Sujing wanted to handle the situation on her own, but Juyeon, whose parents had died in a car accident, blocked the car door and firmly insisted that it be taken to a repair shop, refusing to let her take any risks. Since the car couldn't be fixed quickly, Juyeon arranged for a new car for Sujing. When she hesitated to accept it, he said he was only lending the car in her name so she could go to work and bring her father home once he was discharged from the hospital, and that she could return it as soon as her own vehicle was repaired. Left with no choice, she accepted the car and drove it home, impressed by its comfort. The next day, Juyeon and his secretary traveled for business. On their way to the meeting, a little boy accidentally knocked the Juyeon's tablet to the ground, which contained important data. Fortunately, there was a backup on the company's computer. His secretary said she would call an employee to access his computer and send the files, but Juyeon interrupted her, lying that he already had a backup on his phone. He then rushed to the restroom and called Sujing, asking her to secretly go to his office and send the files from his computer to his phone. Sujing didn't understand the secrecy until she had to enter the startup password. Embarrassed, Juyeon admitted that the password was "I am the devil," written in Japanese. Later, Sujing couldn't stop thinking about Juyeon and how fun and amusing he was with his cute little secrets. She also noticed that he never drank the beverages available at the company and thoughtfully and discreetly brought him chocolate milk. Seeing him drink that simple chocolate milk with the happiness of a child, Sujing was surprised when Juyeon confessed that he had been bothered by her discovering his secrets, but for the first time, he realized that having someone who knew them wasn't so bad, because sharing made everything even better. As she listened to him, she recalled how happy she had felt sharing her secrets with Black Dragon, who had been a source of comfort whenever she missed her mother. Sujing had trusted and emotionally invested herself completely in Black Dragon, but everything changed after they met in person, and she discovered that he had lied to her from the very beginning. Meanwhile, Shinwon longed to see Hajin every day, and realizing that he had fallen for her, he confessed his feelings, hoping she would accept dating him. However, Hajin immediately refused, explaining that she had already been through a failed marriage and was not thinking about getting into another relationship. After closing her restaurant, Hajin was on her way to having dinner with Sujing near the company when she was caught off guard by seeing Black Dragon on the street. Before going to study in the United States, Juyeon had agreed to say goodbye to her in person but without revealing his real name. During their conversation, he asked her if they ever met again someday, she should pretend not to know him because, in order to achieve his goal, he would need to cut all ties. Not wanting to lose her gaming partner, Hajin promised to do so, but in exchange, he had to continue helping her with guild missions whenever he was available. That way, they kept in touch intermittently. Sitting with their backs to each other and communicating through headphones, Black Dragon scolded her for breaking her promise and calling out to him when they crossed paths on the street. She apologized, saying she was just surprised to see him there, as she thought he was still abroad. After saying goodbye and reminding her to keep pretending not to know him if she ever saw him again, she was left pondering the reason behind all this secrecy, suspecting that he might be in the mafia or something even worse. Shortly after Juyeon left, Sujing arrived late and took Hajin to a popular restaurant. While waiting in line, she shared that her father had been hospitalized and that she felt overwhelmed but was grateful to her boss for helping her when she needed it most. Before, Sujing used to call him all sorts of names, but now Hajin noticed a hint of admiration and a bit of embarrassment in Sujing's expression as she spoke about him. This led Hajin to suspect that her friend might be falling for her boss because ever since her heart had been broken by Black Dragon, her first love, Sujing had never wanted to get close to another man again. Even though Sujing insisted that she still felt the same way, believing that being single was more comfortable, Hajin noticed that something about her had changed. In an effort to restructure the company internally, Juyeon devised a plan. As part of the process, he deliberately made an obviously wrong decision regarding a new store to test whether the employees would have the courage to correct him despite his status. Only Sujing had the courage to oppose this decision and demanded that Juyeon explain why he was placing this store in the company's mall when there were better options that would generate more profit for Youngsung. Juyeon then revealed his true intentions, announcing that he was disappointed with everyone except Sujing, who was the only one willing to help him correct a mistake. However, Sujing felt uncomfortable upon realizing that she had been tested and went to the rooftop alone to cool off. Juyeon followed her, saying that the test had been necessary, but he asked how he could help her feel better. Sujing replied that he didn't need to do anything, she would find a way to feel better on her own. However, Juyeon refused to leave her alone and admitted that he was curious to learn more about her. When Sujing revealed that she used to enjoy playing online games but had stopped after being deceived, he took her to an arcade. There, unlike online games, there was no deception, and she could simply have fun again. They tried out various rides and different games, competing against each other and momentarily setting aside their worries. Although they were having fun, both were naturally competitive, and with Juyeon winning most of the games, Sujing, determined not to lose, grabbed his hand and pleaded to play more. However, she quickly let go upon realizing what she had done. Both were left uncertain about how to act, suddenly aware of how much they enjoyed each other's company. Shortly after, Hajin called Sujing to invite her for dinner at her restaurant. Upon learning that she was with her boss, she excitedly invited both of them, eager to meet her friend's legendary employer. On their way to the restaurant, Sujing's shoelace came undone. As she bent down to tie it, she was surprised when Juyeon also knelt and did it for her. When they looked at each other, their faces were incredibly close, creating an intense atmosphere, as if time had stopped and only the two of them existed in that moment. However, the tension was abruptly interrupted when Hajin called urgently, warning Sujing not to come to the restaurant because Black Dragon was there. And that's where we'll leave off for this episode of My Dearest Nemesis. Just when things were getting interesting, Sujing and Juyeon's moment gets interrupted by an unexpected warning. What will happen next? Will Sujing and Black Dragon cross paths again? And how will Juyeon react? Let me know your thoughts and theories in the comments below. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so you don't miss what happens next. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next episode.